guys, welcome back to the shop. So we went and made our little Harbor Freight run yesterday and got the stuff to fix our bandsaw. We got a bandsaw blade, and then I had to make a little plate to fit in there to keep my blade straight and stuff, and this thing works better than it ever has. I was gonna video the repair work and modification, but I was just in such a hurry to get it done that I just didn't videotape it. And then when I got it going, again, I was gonna videotape cutting out these scales, but in a hurry, want to get going, you know, and didn't even think about it. So I got these scales cut out this morning. We got our liners, our micarta liners, and our scales for Bob's knife. And so now it's a matter of drilling them and positioning them on the blade and pinning them, and then we can kind of shape them a little closer to what we're going to be and get them glued onto the knife. And so we'll show you that part there, and we'll get them sized and pinned and put on our, you know, we got to get this front part here beveled the way we want it, because you can't do that once that's on the knife. So what we'll do is we'll drill them, and we'll get them lined up on the knife where we want them, and put our pins in them. Then we'll take them back off of the knife and we'll pin just the scales and the liners together, like this. We'll line up our holes once they're drilled, and we'll just pin these together just like this, so that we get them perfectly even. And we'll come on the belt grinder and we'll bevel these front edges so that we're not trying to do that once it's on the blade. So anyway, yeah, I got sidetracked yesterday. Had some other things come up. Wasn't able to go ahead with the scales and all that after we got back from Harbor Freight. So it's the next day, and we're getting with it today. So thanks for being here. I appreciate you watching and joining me in the shop today. We're going to try to get the majority of these scales done today. So I think we've got enough time today that once we get them fitted and pinned and glued on, there's enough time for the epoxy to set up enough that we can start shaping these scales once they're on the knife. So glad you're here. Let's get to work. Yeah, we'll be all right. Alright, so we've got that first one done. Now we're going to cut us a pin, and we're going to pin that middle pin in there. So, and as we drill each hole, we'll put another pin in it. So that's how we're going to do that. mean, it's nothing dangerous. It's not like it's out as a short or anything. It's just static electricity that builds up while you're grinding, and you know, it zaps the crap out of me. I almost dropped my material I'm working on sometimes, and man, it hurts. Okay, I'm going to have to take these pins down just a little more. I don't want it to be so tight that I don't know if you can see how it puts like a shoulder on there. I don't want it to be that tight so that it, you know, it bungles up the pin as I'm using it. I want it a little, I want it tight, but I don't want it so tight that it turns up our view. That's better. Seriously? Sometimes it seems like everything's got to fight me, you know what I mean? Alright, so we got that pin in there. That'll help us hold our stock. Now while we drill our other holes so that it won't, so we can keep things accurate, you know? I need to grab a piece of wood. Where'd my little piece of wood go? Ah, there we are. It was hiding under another piece of wood. We need this here so we don't split out the back. I did that first one, and it came out okay, but why take a chance, you know? We want to make sure that we do it as nicely as possible, so see, that leaves a nice clean hole on the back, and we don't split it out when we do that. This one here split out just a little bit because we didn't have that wood behind it, but you know, this is all going to get ground and shaped anyway, but still, why risk, you know, it could split out really large and then that wouldn't be good. So Doggone it. Something in my throat. Alright, I know somewhere here. Excuse me. I knew there was a hole there somewhere that would line up with. So there we go. Now we've got 2 pins in. Now we just need to drill this third one. And there we have all of our pinholes drilled. Looks awfully big and blocky, doesn't it? But it'll look a lot better when we get it all trimmed up and cleaned up. Now we need to unpin it from here. And we'll get our other holes drilled in our other set of scales. So we'll get that done and we'll be back. Okay, so we got our scales cut, pinned, took them back off and pinned them together with our micarta in the center. And now we're just beveling these where it goes on the front of the blade by the tassel so that we don't have to do it later. Actually, we can't do it later because it'll be on the blade, and this part goes right on the beginning of the blade where it comes off the handle. So that's got to be shaped up. All right, well, we've got our scales all sized up and ready to go. Now we're just going to kind of scuff this up real good so our epoxy will stick to it. Got some really heavy grit sandpaper here. So we're going to scuff the tang up. We'll also scuff our scales and liners. You know, you're not looking for perfection or anything, you just want it scuffed. It just gives the epoxy a little something more to adhere to, you know. So we'll do both sides of our liners. And then once we have everything scuffed up, then we'll take some acetone and clean it. Get rid of any residual dust or oiliness from hands or what have you, you know. This inside part of this wood is fairly rough already, except where I had to take it to the belt grinder and and grind a little high spot out of here. Again, you know, it doesn't take a whole bunch, but you just don't want a completely smooth surface to try to bond, you know, for your epoxy to try to bond to. And I mean, they're going to be pinned, so it's not extremely critical, but it only takes a minute, you know, so why not just give it that extra little step, you know what I mean, that'll help it, that you know will help it to bond a little better. And had the same thing with this scale. Part of it's pretty rough, just from the saw cut from when it was originally cut. But then there's a little part of it here in the center where I had to get it on the belt grinder and kind of take a little high spot down. So there those are. Now our paper is covered in dust. Not the smartest move. Okay. So we've got our parchment paper down. We'll grab our acetone here and a rag. And we'll wipe these things down. You know what, I'm going to use a paper towel. I don't want to, it's just easier, smaller, a little easier to handle. Now we'll just wipe each piece off. Make sure we get rid of all of that dust and what have you that was left over on there. And again, I'm sure that if we just went ahead and glued them the way they are with the dust on them, it would probably be fine. Epoxy is some amazing stuff, but you know, takes a minute just to clean the dust off and make sure that they're going to adhere well. If it was some hours long process or something, we might forego it, but only takes a second to clean those up. We want to wipe our tang with the knife off as well. Just gives, everything has a nice clean surface now to bond to, no dust or anything like that, and we're ready to mix up a little epoxy here, I think. Okay, here's my little stick. That'll work just fine. Now, before I get too crazy, I want to make sure that I have things the way that they're supposed to be. So yes, that goes with that one. This scale liner goes with this one. Okay. Okay, we've got our pins right here. So this is this side. Okay. So we'll start out with this side. Let's I think let's push our pins through here a little bit. Okay, everything is ready to go. Let's get some epoxy mixed up here. And we're off to the races. I hope we've got time to get both sides of these scales glued and put on here before our epoxy starts to set up. There's that side. Well, alright guys, it's been a couple of hours since we clamped our knife up here. And it looks pretty ugly, doesn't it? That's pretty bad. But we're going to take it down to the bandsaw, and we're going to cut all this excess off of here and see where we are. See, I got a little bit of epoxy on that blade. That'll come off with a little bit of acetone, I believe. So my poor shop is really in need of another cleaning. Well, alright, I've been shaping and sanding my butt off on this thing for quite some time. And let's rub a little bit of acetone on it and see how it's shaping up here. Clean some of the dust and crud off of it. Well, I don't think it's going to be too bad when we get our polyurethane on there. We're going to get it a little smoother. We're going to go with some 500 grit now. This is up to 240. So it's getting there. I like the shape. I think it's going to be a beautiful knife, because this wood here is the same wood we put on this one. So it should look pretty good, right? I think so, but we got to get this smoother yet. I just kind of wanted to hit it with a little poly and see how, or with a little acetone, and get some of the dust off of it and see how our shape and everything was coming out. But feels good in your hand. It's got a nice handle. I left this back here so it doesn't feel like it wants to slide out of your hand if you're, you know, chopping on a piece of wood or something with it. So feels very good. I think it's going to look very good, and we're about done with it. So not a whole lot more to do now that we got our handle scales on. I just need to continue sanding, and I'm sure you guys are not real excited about watching me do more sanding. So so probably in the beginning of the next video we'll show you the we'll show you the finished scales, you know, all polyurethaned and sanded and coated and done. So our next video, or maybe the one after that, I don't know, but I'm happy with this. I think it came out pretty nice. It's a good looking knife, if I do say so myself. And I think Bob will like it. Went ahead and clipped this point a little bit. I didn't care much for that tip the way we had it on there. I think that looks a lot better. So all we got left to do, I got to finish sanding this up to about a 500 grit. Then I got to grind the final bevels and sharpen this thing up real nice, and we're done with it. So we're moving right along on it. Oh, scales came in for Scott's knife today. Well, I don't know if they came in today or not, but they are here, and that's some pretty good looking wood he picked out, I think, for the Damascus knife. So these will be going on that. As soon as we still got to polish up bolsters, and I still got a little more grinding to do on the bolsters on the front of it, where the where this part right here is, where the finger groove there. I failed to grind those in when I had them pinned on to the tang, so I have to repin those back on there and grind those out. But I want to get this one done first, since we were waiting on those scales. You know, I wanted to get this knife pretty much sewed up and out of my hair, so I can send it to Bob and we can move on with other things. So appreciate you watching. We'll probably be working on Scott's knife tomorrow in the shop. It's getting kind of late. My back hurts from sanding. And again, you know, it doesn't show up in the videos, but you do a lot of sand. Even these handle scales, you can shape them out so much on the grinder, you know. And then you just got to get in there with your fingers and a piece of sandpaper and just sand the tar out of it. And I mean, you sand it till your back aches and your fingers hurt. And I still got quite a bit more sanding to do on it. So, like I said, you guys have seen sanding. That's boring to watch. So I appreciate you being here. Get out to your shop and do something, make something, play with your tools, whatever, you know. Just have a good time and be safe. while you're doing it, and be sure to wear that dust mask because you don't want to be breathing all that grinder dust and crap. So take care of yourselves, and we'll see you on the next one.